Okay, this is my trick for learning some, in fact, a whole bunch of the polyatomic ions. The key to this is using your periodic table. So you want to have your periodic table out right now. You also want to have your polyatomic ion sheet out right now. So this one, it's good to have each of those out in front of you so we can check the correctness of our little system here. So using the using the periodic table, you want to first mark on your periodic table the inners and the outers. So in black here, I've marked the inners, and those are silicon, phosphorus, sulfur, and if you want, you can include arsenic and selenium on there. And then the outers are on this little section of nonmetals and semimetals, the ones in this red magenta color: boron, carbon, nitrogen, leave off, oxygen and fluorine, these don't apply here, and chlorine, bromine, iodine. So the whole key to this is figuring out how many oxygens and what charge there are for a lot of these polyatomic ions. And I think about 15 of these ions at least work for this system. So let's look at the outers first. The rule for the outers is if your last, your suffix is ATE, that means it's going to have 3 oxygens as an outer. So let me get the right color here. So for something like nitrate, NO3, the reason I know it's 3 is because for that term nitrate, ATE, means that there's going to be 3 oxygens. So all the outers, if the subscript is ATE, then it's going to have 3 oxygens. That's an E, ATE. A little hard to draw on this. Okay, so for the inners, for that subscript ATE, it's going to have 4 oxygens. So for sulfate, a very common ion, there are 4 oxygens for ATE. So the key there is the inners are going to have 4 oxygens if the suffix is ATE, and the outers are going to have 3 oxygens. So silicate, arsenate, all of those have 4 oxygens in their polyatomic ion formula. For the outers, for getting the charge, we are going to count from right to left. So as you're looking on this chart, if I look at nitrogen, the first one that comes up, nitrogen or nitrate, is going to have a -1 charge. And as you go to the left, you're going to add a charge or add a negative to each one. So nitrate is going to have a -1 charge. Carbonate is going to have a -2 charge. Borate is going to have a -3 charge. So the same thing applies for the next row. So row 3, the first one you come across, chlorine or chlorate, is going to have a -1 charge. Sulfate a -2, phosphate a -3, and silicate a -4. And it works for all of these ones down here as well. Okay, so now that we know the 8s, how are we going to decide if something is an ite? Well, the nice part about that is once you know the 8s, if you just take away one oxygen, it changes the name to ITE, or it changes the suffix. Looking at chlorate, not carbonate, if we look at chlorate, it is a -1 charge because it's the first one, and it's an outer, so it has 3 oxygens. Chlorite is going to be 1 less oxygen, so chlorite is light by 1 oxygen, so it's just ClO2-. And if we take away another oxygen, it becomes hypo, which means even less. So hypochlorite means it is ClO with a -1 charge, or sometimes it's written OCl-. And that is, when you're missing 2 oxygens, it becomes hypochlorite. Well, what if you have an extra oxygen? So chlorate is CO3-, so ClO4- is going to have an extra oxygen, and that's called perchlorate. hyper means extra. So if you shorten that, you get perchlorate. So that's how we can get all these chlorine ones, by just knowing chlorate. If you take away one oxygen, it's light, so it's chlorite. If you take away two, it's hypochlorite. If you add an oxygen to chlorate, you get perchlorate. And so if we look at sulfate, sulfate has 4 oxygens because it's an inner. It's a -2 charge because it's the second one you come across. And so SO4 2- is sulfate. And what would sulfite be? Well, sulfite is going to be light by 1 oxygen. So it's SO3 2-, 1 less than sulfate. So note the charge does not change when you're changing the number of oxygens. So that's our trick for using the periodic table. This is actually a video you might want to watch twice, just because it can get a little tricky trying to keep track of where these are. But keep this as a reference, and good luck.